Welcome back to the second part of the lecture on Chapter 1 from Bobby Owsinski's Music 4.0. Before we start, let's do a quick review of Part 1 of the lecture. Up until the end of the 19th century, music was almost always performed live. Music could be recorded and published in score format, written down on paper, and music boxes could play back short tunes, but it wasn't anything like the record or the radio business. One of the benefits of the Industrial Revolution for the middle class was that music became more widely available. Printed music became affordable, and middle-class families got player pianos to play back recorded rolls. In the 1950s, fans found new music on the radio and bought LPs in record stores. And in the 1980s, MTV started a shift towards musicians that looked good on TV, and the industry got rich selling CDs. Many reissues of LPs already in their catalog. So on with Part 2, the new part of this lecture. The CDs that started to become popular in the 1980s stored music in a digital format, but most consumers didn't know how to extract the files. In Music 2.0, music began to be circulated as files rather than on disk, and radio stations stopped playing as big a variety of artists. The process of digitization is the turning of an analog work, like a recording, book, or movie, into a digital format that can be stored and transmitted via computers. The process of digitization and the technology that it makes possible has fundamentally changed society. And those of you who were born at the end of the 20th century, you were born on the cusp of a dividing line when everything changed. If you make an analog copy of a picture using a Xerox machine, the copy is fuzzier, and every time you make a copy it gets fuzzier and noisier and harder to see. So the copy of a Xerox is not as good as the original. A cassette tape, which was how people copied LP records, lost some fidelity with each copy. Every time you copy it picks up some hiss and loses some frequencies, and when you make a copy of that copy it gets even worse. However, when you convert the music into binary form, a series of zeros and ones, the copy is easy to make, it's very fast, it's very inexpensive or free, and the copy is identical to the original. And the second copy of that first copy is also identical. So that's really the difference between analog and digital copying. It's faster to transmit, it can go longer distances, and the copy is the identical. You don't lose quality. That really scared the recording industry. The first overhaul of the telecommunications law in more than 60 years took place in 1996 in the Telecommunications Act. The goal was to remove regulatory barriers to entering the communications industry to make it more competitive. It made companies with networks sell bandwidth to other companies, and included regulations for adult and violent programming by including the V chip in devices to make it easier for parents to control what their children were watching. Here's a little of President Clinton's comments as he's about to sign the Telecommunications Act of 1996 into law. They're located in the Library of Congress.
I'd like to begin by thanking the Library of Congress for hosting us here. At my understanding, this may be the only time in American history a piece of legislation has been signed here, and perhaps the first time in 3 decades when one has been signed on Capitol Hill. If that is so, then this is certainly a worthy occasion. This law is truly revolutionary legislation that will bring the future to our doorstep. It is fitting that we mark this moment here in the Library of Congress. It is Thomas Jefferson's building. Most of you know President Jefferson deeded his books to our young nation after our first library was burned to the ground in the War of 1812. The volumes that lined these walls grew out of Jefferson's legacy. He understood that democracy depends upon the free flow of information. He said, "He who receives an idea from me receives instruction himself without lessening mine. And he who lights his taper at mine receives light without darkening me." Today, the information revolution is spreading light, the light Jefferson spoke about all across our land and all across the world. It will allow every American child to bring the ideas stored in this reading room into his or her own living room or schoolroom. Americans have always had a genius for communications. The power of our founding fathers' words reverberated across the world from the moment they were said down to the present day. From the Pony Express to the miracle of a human voice over the phone line, American innovation and communications have broken the barriers of time and space to make it easier for us to stay in touch, to learn from each other, to reach for our highest aspirations. Today, our world is being remade, yet again, by an information revolution, changing the way we work, the way we live, the way we relate to each other. Already, the revolution is so profound that it is changing the dominant economic model of the age. And already, thanks to the scientific and entrepreneurial genius of American workers in this country, it has created vast, vast opportunities for us to grow and learn and enrich ourselves in body and in spirit. But this revolution has been held back by outdated laws designed for a time when there was one phone company, 3 TV networks, no such thing as a personal computer. Today, with the stroke of a pen, our laws will catch up with our future. We will help to create an open marketplace where competition and innovation can move as quick as light. An industry that is already 1/6 of our entire economy will thrive. It will create opportunity, many more high-wage jobs, and better lives for all Americans. Soon, working parents will be able to check up on their children in class via computer. Families heading off on vacation trips will be able to program the fastest route in their car computers, thanks to the work the Department of Transportation is now doing. On a rainy Saturday night, you'll be able to order up every movie ever produced or every symphony ever created in a minute's time.
Seemed like amazing predictions at the time. He talks about Jefferson and how he said, if you learn from me, it doesn't diminish what I know. If you light your candle from my light, it doesn't diminish my light. And it's like that with digital copying of files. When you copy a file, you don't lose the original. So that's partly why people didn't think of that as stealing. One of the effects of the Telecommunications Act was the deregulation of the radio industry. After deregulation, a company can own up to 8 stations in one market, and there's no limit to the number of stations that they can own nationally. Clear Channel spent around $30 billion and now owns over 1,200 radio stations across the country, including as many 8 stations in many markets. A technological outgrowth of earlier tape-based automation systems dating back to the 1960s, known as voice tracking, allows for smaller market stations to be partially or completely staffed by cyberjocks who may never have visited the town from which they're broadcasting. And this graph shows the drop in the number of companies owning radio stations across the country, and it's by 2004 down to just 5. Clear Channel was founded in 2008, owns over 1,200 stations now. Cumulus has the second largest number of radio stations. In 2006, they had 505. So add to your timeline, start in part 1 of the lecture, put in the Telecommunications Act of 1996, and we'll get on to MP3s here in just a moment, which happened around the same time. Sean Fanning, a college student at Northeastern U, developed Napster in 1999. Napster was his nickname from high school. And it's a peer-to-peer network where you log into Napster's computer there at the top, and it keeps track of what all its clients have. So all the computers using the software are all connecting to the server and telling the server what files they have on their hard drives. And then any other user can copy the file from any other computer on the network. So each user is able to download a file or pieces of the same file from multiple computers from anyone he or she is connected to. Napster's servers kept track of the files that a user had to share when they connected to the server, making it easy for another user to search the database and find them. The service exploded between 1999 to 2001 and allowed users to share copies of MP3 files. The speedy growth of file sharing was the result of a perfect storm of a number of factors. The first of which was the MP3 file format developed by the Motion Picture Expert Group. That's where the MP comes from. Most software and hardware devices started to support the MP3 file format, so you could use it on any system. This graph shows the variety of qualities that you can get when you shrink files down. The WAV file on the left, the green one, is the size of a CD quality sound file. And you can compress that and make it smaller while getting rid of some of the unneeded artifacts. It does reduce the quality somewhat, but you get a great savings in space and speed of transmitting files over the internet. The claim is that the things that it takes out are less audible for humans. 128 kilobits per second is a pretty good target. It sounds okay, and those files are only a tenth of the size of the original CD quality files. The second contributing factor to the growth of file sharing was the growth of high-speed internet connections in homes and on college campuses and dorms. This made it easier to share those files quickly, so you didn't have to wait so long to download a file. The third factor was a widespread disregard for the law. People felt that the record companies had been charging too much for CDs and didn't think that the royalties were going to the artists anyway, and just didn't look at it as stealing. They got used to getting songs for free and just didn't see anything wrong with it, didn't think they'd be caught. The last factor in the growth of file sharing was this steep drop in the price of hard drives. So users, by the time Napster caught on, could have nearly unlimited amount of space to store their growing collections. It just got very cheap, and you had unlimited file space. You could have all the songs you wanted, so why not go out there and grab just bunches of them from other users? So if you didn't add MP3 there to your timeline before, add that now. Between 1990 and 2000, the Telecommunications Act, MP3, and now Napster coming in right at the tail end of the 20th century. The record labels looked at this graph of CD sales and said that file sharing and piracy were responsible for the drop in sales. They said that the trend in growing sales should have continued up the line and shown in red, and pointed to the drop in actual sales as a sign of the damage that piracy had caused their business. But maybe it was time for CDs to decline. The market had become saturated. CD sales did indeed drop off, but the digital sales were starting to increase. This is the product life cycle, and it's a trend that many products and businesses go through over time. There's an early growth phase in which the early adopters catch on and start to spread the word, and then the large segment of the population buys during the mature phase, and sales reach their peak, after which there's less interest and need to get the product, and sales naturally decline. I've superimposed this curve over CD sales and the smaller 8-track market in the lower left-hand corner. Both those products, as well as vinyl records, have gone through the same cycle of growth and decline characteristic of the product life cycle. Maybe CD sales were due to drop off, with or without piracy. To make up for the loss in revenue of CD sales, record labels looked for new sources of income and invented a new type of contract called the 360 deal, like the 360 degrees of a circle. Under these terms, artists agree to give the label a percentage of everything they make, not just on their recordings. Now most major label artists have 360 deals and give the record label part of their publishing income, merchandise sales, as well as money from touring. In Music 3.0, the artist can communicate directly with fans. It's the 5th generation of the music business, and now the artist can communicate, interact, market, and sell directly to the fan. The companies between the artists and fans, record labels, radio, and television, became somewhat irrelevant, and single songs were purchased more often than albums. In Music 3.0, direct artist-to-fan communication, marketing, and sales became common. The audience also became stratified. It became possible for little subgenres to be supported and provided for little groups that didn't have a place in the mainstream record business before. There wasn't a market for those little niche specialty styles of music. There were more opportunities for more artists, but at the same time it also meant that the possibility of a huge multi-million selling breakout hit diminished as fewer people were exposed to a single musical genre than before. The days started to fade when a television appearance or heavy rotation on radio or MTV airplay alone could propel an artist to platinum-level success. In Music 3.0, the artist and the fan can keep in touch directly on any and every level they choose to, from creation to promotion to marketing to sales. The artist needs to frequently create high-quality content and updates to keep the fan engaged. Apple's iPod went through the typical product cycle, which was followed by the iPhone. Having a vibrant third-party app ecosystem became an important feature for a smartphone, and was, and still is, a barrier for companies like Amazon and Microsoft who want to get into the business. Music 3.5, the sixth generation of the music business, is when YouTube and other online video platforms became the new radio, and the digital side of the business began to slowly morph from one of downloads to streaming. As Music 3.0 progressed into 2012, music consumers gradually transitioned their music consumption to where a new medium somewhat replaced an old one. Although traditional terrestrial radio continues to be the principal way that all age groups discover new music, primarily thanks to the car radio, the crucial teen demographic now prefers not only discovering music on YouTube, but actually listening to it there as well. According to Nielsen's annual Music 360 report, 2/3 of all American teens use YouTube as their major source of music consumption, and that number continues to grow. Music is the top content category in YouTube. Which brings us to Music 4.0, the generation of the music business that we've now entered, where streaming becomes the preferred music delivery method for the consumer. What is yet to be seen is how this will become profitable on a wide scale and increase revenue for artists, songwriters, publishers, and labels. In 2003, Steve Jobs gave reasons why he didn't think streaming was the right way to go. He said he thought that people want to own their own music and be able to burn tracks to a CD and load them on a portable music player, that people have always bought their music, and what they want is a broad set of rights to use the songs they buy in any way they want to. Think about the advantages of streaming and why many companies, including Apple, are now moving towards it. What do you think has changed since 2003? In 2014, will.i.am put out this video about the music industry being dead. Take notes about why he thinks this is, and where he says the opportunities are now.
We've been dreaming about the future.
I embrace reality, and reality is everything that we thought the music industry was is dead. So once you come to grips with reality and realize that the music industry is dead, then the freer you will be to imagine new industries.
We've been thinking about technology, dreaming and thinking about the possibilities. What's it gonna do? Tell me what's it gonna be? Excuse me while I dream.
It's dead for the fact that your contract, if you're signed to a major label, is based on records. There are no more record stores, and they're not pressing up records. As a matter of fact, they ain't making record players. They're not pressing up CDs, and as a matter of fact, CDs aren't even in laptops anymore, right? And they're gonna be less and less in vehicles. So that being said, what industry are you talking about?
We are here because of trends. Lots of innovation.
If my contract is based on CDs and record players and cassettes, 14 songs to an album, what the hell is an album? Right, so that being said, it's dead. But social is awesome. You can still go to iTunes and buy music. You can still stream music. You still go to YouTube. People are listening and viewing and sharing music more than they ever have. But are artists getting paid on YouTube? I don't know. I ain't seen no YouTube check. And Scream and Shout got 300 million views on the internet. So you tell me if it's alive.
In the 1970s as a recording engineer. He helped create a record company, which went on to merge with other labels, and in 2009 teamed up with Dr. Dre to start Beats. In the little lecture that follows, take notes about suggestions that he makes for what a service could do in order to turn the tide in the music business. He's already made plenty of money, so what does he say his goal is now? Get out a piece of paper and actually take notes on what he says. Writing it down physically on paper will help it get into your brain.
CDs disintegrating, and I've always said this, we have to make more revenues from the work that we do, and we have to increase the opportunities for the artists as well. So when you start out with a new artist, you restructure the way the relationship is, and then when the new model does hit, which should be soon, when we get going on it, I think it's really going to be good. I think that people like service. So I think you'll be selling a service as much as you are anything else. Something that makes things easy for people, easy for a family to get music and wire it through their house or put it in their car, or tells you what to buy, helps you with what to buy rather. So I mean, the CD going away. I mean, we're still tons of CDs being sold, but we all know where it's going. But that's just a transition into something else, you know. I mean, the sales are down right now, you know. But that's because it's been very hard to figure out a way to make that transition. I think that the record industry has been slow on the uptake for a bit, you know. But it's not as easy as it looks. Well, I believe it's service. I think that we have to, on the actual music side alone, not touring or anything like that, just on the music side, I think we have to really, this business was never had a relationship with its customer. It never has. I think we need to have that now, a direct relationship, and I think that we need to service them. And that will turn the tide of something as simple as that. Let's say we had a subscription service, for lack of a better word, but only this service was in an environment that you could go in and know everything about that artist, things related to that artist, artists that are related to that artist, credible playlists by unique people, all the videos in one place, all this original content, unique content. Like, artists make a lot of records around this place. Feed them, put the music out every month. People are interested in that, you know. So just keep building the service to where it's really good, and I think that'll. I think that's one of the things that can turn the tide. You know, there are many things that are more complicated about all this, but the bottom line to me is get the music, marry it with technology, and make the service incredible. I think they would pay for a service as well if the service was right and good and clean and reasonably priced, or subsidized and priced. You know, it can go a lot of ways. You know, phone companies or, you know, technology companies, hardware companies. There's a lot of ways to do it. And remember, whoever has the content in the end, the unique content, especially music. The reason why music is in trouble on the internet is because it's the best app, because it flows through that thing like water. So that's going to really help the record industry in the end, because if you look at some of these big companies, what they're paying a lot of their bandwidth is like, there's kids watching videos, music videos. So if we make them unique to certain advantage, certain big, you know, cable companies or online companies or technology companies, if we advantage people, it's really going to be very, our license will be very valuable. And, you know, kids may be willing to steal music, but corporations are becoming less and less because they have a lot more to lose. Well, you know, the record industry has for a very long time, really missed the opportunity on advertising. I mean, we're the only people in the world that gives away the content, someone else advertises around it, and we call it promotion. Now that is just naive. It's silly. So these things happening, in the end, it'll be a good thing because it's forcing everybody to think like businessmen. Say, okay, what are we doing? How can we give our content away and call it promotion? It's really a silly thing. People that give their music away, usually they're a young band that no one knows. If older groups, if older musicians are giving their music away, it's usually because no one else even wants to steal it. You know, I mean, you put one out song by that somebody wants on the internet that they want, and everybody in the world will have it in 5 minutes. You don't need to give them away. I mean, if you want to, you can, but that's a fly on an elephant's butt of what the people you reach. You know. Hopefully, those people know your music and they like you because they're there. You know, you're touching them somehow. So I don't think that's. I mean, if it's giving it away for advertising, I mean, I don't know. Someone's got to pay for it. You know. I mean, unless everybody wants all the music in the world to be free, which is, I guess, communism or something. I don't know. I was one of those guys called in the big record companies a big bad wolf for 18 years as a record producer. What happens is, you make a record, you sit in the studio, and you kill yourself. It is so hard, and you're doing the best you can, and you really think you've created, you know, Sgt. Pepper, when in fact you didn't. The hardest thing for any artist to do, including when I was a record producer, for me to do, was to look in the mirror and say, you know what? It was me. Everybody wants to be Shaggy and says it wasn't me. But the fact is that sometimes it is the record company, and a lot of times it's the artist. But the artist, simply by what they're called, artist, they get a voice like that, and it's a very easy target. My album was great. It wasn't me. It was that building, you know. And you know, what can you do about that? So it's over the years, it's eaten away. Now some of it's valid. In the early days of the record business, people weren't getting paid and all this other stuff, whatever. You know, that's all true, and that carries over as well. Sometimes it is the record company's fault. Sometimes people are just incompetent, you know. But a lot of times it's the music, stupid. Right now, some of these guys in urban pop music and hip hop are brilliant. You know, Pharrell, Timbaland, Dr. Dre, you know, Akon. These guys, all guys are really, Will.i.am, all really talented guys. They do it all. They can write it, produce it, you know, make the drums. They play, you know, they can do it. They could do anything. But I think what a great producer is somebody who is born or real strong combination of natural talent and learned ability to feel what excites and can move popular culture and helps guide people to that end. It's about moving. It's the real goal for all of us is to move popular culture. That's what we're trying to do. Yeah, everybody wants to get paid, and that's very, you know, it's very popular these days. I mean, talking about it, you know. But the fact is, what we're really trying to do is impact popular culture. And when you can do that, it's really rewarding. So a great record producer understands that instinctively and does everything he can to help move the needle. I would learn how to work all the great equipment. I think that's a fabulous thing to have in your whole life, no matter where you go. The fact that I know how to work a console today helps me so much in everything that I do, because I have a feel for electronics. I have a feel for what the stuff does. You know, I just kind of know, you know, when you grow up like that, you know, you should, talk about producers, right?
Yeah.
You should know music. You should learn the piano. You should be able to communicate. You know, if somebody changes the key, you should know, right? And you should hustle and look for talent. And know that it's not a job, it's a passion and a vocation. and you can't do it part-time. I couldn't. Well, I'm hoping that we turn into a major platform, which could look like anything. It could look like a network. It could look like it could look like, you know, iTunes on steroids rather. It could look like anything. But what I'm trying to do is build out that infrastructure to where we can deliver, whether it's, you know, going partners with, you know, older DJs across the country, or just something as simple as, not simple, but building an online presence with one of the social networks or one of our own, where we can just put out entertainment. And Interscope's not going to always, it'll never only put out music. We just don't work like that. We'll make movies, we'll make television shows, we'll do shorts, we'll do direct to telephone. You know, we do a lot of crazy things. I'll sign anybody that's really gifted at almost anything that resembles popular culture. If I met a great artist, painter, sculptor, I back him. That fits right in here as far as I'm concerned. If they have some competency in recording it themselves, or have a friend that has a good knack for it, is get music recorded. It is so easy to get to the public right now. All you have to do is, you know, put a pretty girl on the front page of your MySpace page, and they'll play your song. You know, it's not, that's not literal, but you know, I would do that. I would go out and try to get great live. I mean, music, you mean as an artist, right? I would really work on my live thing, because that's really not a lot of. It's really an asset right now, but people don't really work as hard as they should on it. Some people do. Some bands do. You see, they get real audiences in certain cities, and they start to build their thing, get on tours, and they really hustle. And you know, just that's pretty much what I would do. I'd make my music great. See, that's the whole thing, and you know, and hopefully you'll have a clear view of what is great and what isn't, because either way you'll be told, and then you'll blame the record company. But it's not. But that's okay. I think like if you're living in some small town somewhere, we have the internet now, and I'll say it again to maybe use this one. The fact that the internet is hurting the sales of music so much, it is also making it so easy to communicate with people about music. It's so easy. And the record industry has to get itself in the flow. And it will. It will. There's no doubt. But artists, if they really want it right now, they can find out what they've got. You can get out there, like Soulja Boy. We signed Soulja Boy. There's 4 million kids watching his video. 4 million people watch the video. I mean, we didn't have to be geniuses to sign Soulja Boy. Online environment in music is so rich, and it's not organized yet, which it will get. And there's a lot of nonsense. People like to hear themselves talk a lot, but I think that, first of all, they absolutely should get. They are being more educated. I can tell you, kids that come in here, young kids, they're completely different brood than 10, 15 years ago. Different kid. I would do a lot of self-contained stuff. You know, I'd get my website really popping. You know, make it real exciting as I could. But I'll tell you, in the way this world is right now, when you've got 6 television shows auditioning 2 million people each around the world, or 10 television, I mean, you got all these record companies, all these people on the internet, you'll get heard. You will get heard. You know? And it's a tough game. A lot of people, you have to keep your music solid and pure. It's really hard to get through the maze. But just believe in yourself. Whatever it is, there'll be someone who's going to organize it and put it together, and that'll be called a record company. It'll, you know what I mean? It's a matter of you know, who. But I feel good about it because we're doing a lot of different things. We're going a lot of different areas. We're starting an online magazine with Gwen Stefani, you know, and it's so incredible to work on that with her. It's just really fun, you know. We have a couple of nightclubs with the Pussycat Dolls, you know. So we do a lot of different things, you know. Really, we had the U2 iPod, you know, we were partners in that with them. So we do many things now, and it's really, but it's going to grow from there. The things that we're going to be doing are broader and bigger in scale. I'm trying to find myself, you know. So if that does that, then great. And I'm never settled, you know, about it. I really just keep pushing the barrier to find out where it is, you know. And I'm going to keep pushing. I think it's somewhere about what I was talking about. When we get our platform going, I think it's going to be a good model. And it'll be a good model for whether you're a kid or whether you're a major.
Malibu is an exclusive beach area in Southern California where many movie stars have houses. After Apple bought Beats in January 2015, Iovine spent $60 million for a 3-bedroom house on 4 acres of land there. The previous owner had bought the house from Richard Gere in 1995 for $10 million. There's a lagoon-style pool and a tennis court. Dr. Dre owned 25% of Beats, and he took home around $800 million before taxes from the sale to Apple. After taxes, that would have left him with about $200 million, and he paid $50 million for this mansion from Tom Brady. It's got a nice pool and a view of the Pacific Ocean.